So we're going to talk about Moist Critical. So apparently this is breaking news. He just dropped a video titled Moist Critical Situation is Crazy. A lot of you guys in the chat are saying this is a coping and seething video. I don't know. But for the interest of time, I'm going to let it play out as much as possible with minimal commentary. I'm only going to comment here and there for fair use and all that stuff. But we're running out of time. So I want to make sure we get this done. So here we go. Moist Critical Situation is Crazy. Let's see how he's coping.
Heavens to Betsy, what a week, huh, sports fans? Holy Toledo. Yeah, so Moist Critical's in a big oopsie-poopsie situation here. It reminds me of the time in Moonfall when KC Houseman sacrifices himself and dies of cringe to become the moon. Yeah, so being serious now, since this has become such a big issue, I've been in a lot of drama recently. I'm in hot water, and I'm biting on the fart bubbles that pop up in the bathtub here. It is a lot. So let's start with the most recent one today, my retirement. I didn't know I was retiring. That's news to me. I'm as shocked as all of you are. I had a ton of fun last night playing a game called Clickleding, which is basically like a cuckoldry simulator, but for clicking against like the Lorax in a hotel room. And I just did like an old school gameplay commentary video. I was bubbly, full of jubilation. I posted it today only to learn that I'm just a big old fucking liar. Liar, liar, plants for hire, I suppose. Apparently, and I didn't know this until I posted the video, everyone was under the impression that I was quitting the internet. So I started scratching at the hair on my chinny chin, wondering, when the fuck did that happen? Was I sleepwalking? Do I have somnambulism? Is this some kind of like, Fight Club situation? But instead of like Tyler Durden, I have fucking Charles Turden here that's just making wrong announcements. It turns out the patient zero behind all of this was a post Jackson made announcing that I would be leaving the podcasts, which is something I thought about periodically for quite a few months now. Mainly because I started to recognize that I was becoming the very thing I'd make fun of with being chronically online. Like, I just was always online, and the podcasts were a big proponent of that, and I just kind of wanted to scale back the amount of time I spend online. So then I kept Jackson in the loop the whole time here about where...
So it was something that you were thinking about for months, and yet you just happened to do it at the time where you're getting tons of backlash for advocating for the transing of 9-year-olds. Yeah, because that's believable.
Where my head was at. And last week I told him, hey man, I think this is going to be where I hang up the jersey. You can put it in the rafters, throw it in the dumpster, but I think I'm just going to be, sailing off into the sunset here and just reducing the amount of stuff I do online, which he completely understood. So he made the announcement just letting people know that. And then that got spun on Twitter and Reddit as Moist Critical's taking an indefinite hiatus and quitting the internet fundamentally. Don't know when I'll be back. He's done with the internet because of all this controversy. Patooey on his grave. He's gone. When looking at the post, I don't even know where that's coming from. It's literally just talking about the podcast and me just stepping away. Like, it doesn't extend beyond that. I can't even wrap my tiny noodle around how anyone could perceive this as...
Well, let's bring up the post. How could people think that you're taking an indefinite hiatus? Well, let's read it. Effective immediately, Charlie has made the decision to leave both the official podcast and the Red Thread. He wants to go on an indefinite hiatus. Okay. That was pretty hard, I guess.
Me being done with the internet entirely, but that's the story that they ran with, and that's what most people saw, not the actual post. So everyone thought I was quitting the internet, so I posted that video that I was really happy with because it just felt like an OG old school video that made me happy. And then bang! Just a flood of comments and dislikes all saying shit like, how could you fucking deceive us? I thought you quit, huh? What happened to leaving, huh? I just read this post on Twitter from an account that had a profile pic of titties photoshopped onto Thomas Edison that said you were done, and it had 50,000 likes, so I know it was true, and you're just a fucking liar. I can't even just peacefully walk away from some projects without it being a massive fucking reaction over actual nothing burger information. And trust me, no one has a palate more refined for nothing burgers than me. I have ranted about the stupidest shit of all time, but this was mind-boggling even for me.
You mean the people who monetarily support you have no right to question where you're going and why you're quitting? I feel like people have the right to ask that question, right? If I just up and said, "Hey, I'm quitting YouTube tomorrow," and all it says was I'm taking an indefinite hiatus or whatever, I feel like you guys would have the right to ask why. It doesn't mean I have to stay. I'm just saying, like, you have the right to ask why. Anyway,
So to set the record straight, no, I'm not retiring, despite what the experts are telling you. All I did was walk away from a couple of projects. Like, that's really it. Like, that's a pretty normal thing to do, especially when one of them I've been doing for like 8 years. I really didn't think it was that deep, especially not deep enough for how big of a story it's become with all of the wild narratives running around about the true reason that I stopped doing it. So let's get into that drama. I've talked about it on stream. I don't even know how many times at this point, but we'll just talk about all of it in this video here. So when covering the Ava Tyson situation, I was attacked by a lot of people for not being quick enough. Even though I covered it within like the first 6 hours, people were unsatisfied that I hadn't made a video within like the first fucking 20 minutes of it dropping. And then when I did finally finish the full video covering all of it, it was another massive problem where now I only did it out of an obligation because people called me out. And then I also got accused of being a transphobe because I didn't use Ava Tyson's preferred pronouns, which were she, her. I didn't know that. I thought just calling Ava Tyson by her name was okay. And I had also heard when I went to the MrBeast thing, someone refer to Ava Tyson with they. So I was truly under the impression that,
well, see, that's what happens when you placate to the mob and you basically bend the knee to the mob. They are going to ask that submission of you all the time. They're going to ask it from you nonstop. And the moment you don't give that submission, they're coming for you. It doesn't matter. You've decided to submit, so now they own you. You don't realize that, but they do.
that was okay. And for that, I was annihilated by a good chunk of Twitter. And then annihilated by another good chunk of Twitter because I called out Sneako, who was the main proponent about me covering for MrBeast to keep the collab alive. I wasn't talking about Ava Tyson because I wanted the MrBeast collab. And I talked about how absurd that statement was, especially given his history with fighting against the age of consent. He's been very vocal about how much he hates the age of consent. And so I talked about that briefly at the end of the video, which then changed the whole narrative for a lot of people where I never talked about Ava Tyson and only talked about Sneako. So it was a complete lose-lose because if I didn't talk about what Sneako was saying, I would have been called a coward for not addressing it and talking about like, well, he was going to cover for MrBeast until Sneako called him out. So like if I didn't do it, I would have been attacked. I did do it, still got attacked. It really was unwinnable. But from that, spawned a conversation where I talked to Sneako directly because he was very upset that I was talking about how him rallying against the age of consent is pedophile arguments, like defending pedophilia. As I've said since the very beginning of this channel, I'm always willing to engage with people I disagree with, and I thought that maybe there was a chance I misunderstood what he was trying to say, even though it's still abhorrent. I thought, okay, maybe he's not actually trying to defend pedophilia. He's like some kind of pseudo-intellectual debate bro who's trying to say something else. So I was willing to hear him out on it, and I talked to him in DMs, and he said he doesn't believe in the age of consent. He believes in the age of marriage, can't assign a number to it, but said that when someone can legally drive, they should be able to marry at the same time, which is literally like a 15 or 16-year-old because you get your permit at 15, your license at 16, and both are way too young to be marrying. That shit is completely unacceptable. It is downright disgusting. He then said that he was happy to discuss it in a call, which I said I was willing to hear him out on, and he said that he would.
Is he leaking DMs, or did he get permission to talk about these DMs? That's crazy. Now we're so desperate we're leaking DMs now? We're seriously leaking DMs now?